Hello, welcome to Tony's Bonsai. I've got a couple of updates for you and a couple of new trees that arrived today in the post. So there's good news, there's bad news, and I think we'll start with the good news. Around a month ago I worked on this dwarf honeysuckle. It's got some lovely little leaves, I've wired it, got it into shape. I was really pleased with how it went. It's just been sat outside doing great, but that's not the good news. I did quite a lot of pruning of that tree, and these are the cuttings that I made, and I just stuck them in a glass of water and put them on the window ledge. And the good news is what's going down at the bottom. You can see in the bottom of the glass we've got lots of new healthy roots growing. They've been in here long enough now. They've generated lots and lots of this new growth, so it's time to get these in their own pots in some soil. I can't make this complicated because it isn't. All I'm going to do is that. Later in the year, once the roots are established a bit, I'll put some wire on and add some movement to these trunks, but I just love free trees. A little question for you, how long does it take to kill a tree? And the answer is 2 weeks. I like to think that I share my successes and my failures, and this Ficus benjamina Natasha is very crispy, or otherwise known as dead. The great thing about bonsai is if a tree dies, you can replace it with 2 more trees. Ever since I saw Corinne at Greenwood's Bonsai Studio working on a cedar of Lebanon, I've wanted one, and I found these on eBay. They were £7 each. They're only obviously very young trees, but what that does mean is I should very easily be able to get some movement into the trunks. But the first thing I need to do today is pop them into some bigger pots and sort the roots out, because the roots look pretty messy. These trees only arrived this morning in the post, so I gave them a really good watering because they were a bit dry, and I just want to have a basic explore of the roots just to try and sort them out. I seem to remember on Corinne's video, I think he had some quite tricky roots to deal with on these big trees, and so I just want to just have a bit of an explore and see what I'm dealing with. I've managed to clear most of the soil out of these roots. I've obviously, some fine roots have been removed, but in the whole I've kept near enough all of that root mass, which is what I want. And I want to show you this second tree. Again, I won't show you all of it, but the roots are really interesting. It looks like we've got a crazy weird bend going on at the bottom, and that's just natural, which is good. But the way that I loosen these roots up is by doing a lot of prodding, quite gently as well. Certainly not a root hook. I want to maintain as many of these fine roots as I can, and so I just take my time and I just gently work round, just breaking that root ball. It seems kind of loose at the top, then we've got a band of roots, and then it's loose again at the bottom. I just spent 4 or 5 minutes with my chopstick, and at this stage now, because I want to be very gentle and just try to sort of separate these roots out, I go in with my hands and I'm just sort of teasing, just gently allowing them to come apart. I used to do a lot of fishing, and part of your time is spent undoing tangles in your line, and it's a bit like that. You almost have to, you're not really concentrating on what you're doing, you're almost just going with the feel and just kind of letting the roots, see that come apart very gently, and just, they want to come apart really. You've just got to allow them to sort of do what they want to do. There is a bit of soil just in there, And I think at this stage I do need to make a decision on on the style of this tree and what I do with it, because depending upon how I plant this now, that's going to impact the design of the tree in the future. I'm hoping you can tell what I'm doing on camera here, but what I've got is, I've got this spread of roots here that are all coming in this direction, and I'd like to have all of those roots sort of coming forward like that, and then the tree obviously bends round and I need it to come back round. So all I'm going to do is twist the tree up like that. I've tried gathering these roots together and my plan just doesn't seem to really work, so I've had a second plan. What I'm thinking is perhaps I can use all these roots together like this to create an exposed root like that, and it almost naturally kind of fits together. This could become, as these roots fuse in the future, that can kind of become part of the trunk, and the tree can then come up like that. So that's my plan. One of the advantages of trying lots of different bonsai techniques is that when you come up to a problem like this, instead of thinking, well, what can I do with that? You've kind of got, if you will, almost like a toolkit of ideas that you can fall back on. So I'm wrapping that wire around, and then, as I've done in previous videos, I'm just gathering these roots together like that, and then creating almost a cage of wire around these like this. And I had no idea that I was going to be doing anything like that with this tree. This was like the last thing I expected, really. However, when you're faced with such like crazy wild roots as this tree's got, it's not an option to just do just a normal bonsai tree in a pot. That will just, it would never have worked. It would have always had some kind of weird, ugly root base. But by doing this now, you can sort of see the idea of that exposed root, and that could be really nice, I think. I've added some of the soil that the tree was in into my bonsai mix, and this isn't a complicated procedure now at all. What I want to do is just flatten out those roots a bit on the base so that they kind of spread radially in the pot like that, and then it's just a simple process of adding the soil on top and covering all of these roots. I'm not normally short of ideas, but this second tree, I keep looking at the roots and they're so bad. I can't work out what to do with them. You know, I don't want to remove loads of the roots. There aren't loads on anyway. If I take this off, and we've got a weird root base then with just two bits coming out the side. This kind of looks okay from this side, but they're very, very awkward. And then we've got this big one that kind of points upwards here. And if I remove that, I've just got like the classic chicken foot root of two roots coming out the front, which I don't like. So it's really stumped me, this one. Very, very tricky. And in the end, I think what I'm going to do is get some of my trusty vet tape and just try to manhandle these roots down into some kind of position. They're quite stiff, but I can get some bend on them, and at least if I can kind of move them down into some kind of downward position, at least in the future I'd have some kind of nabari. Oh, I don't know. It's just weird. I think this has to go. This root here is just a shocker, but it's a massive part of the root base. That's over 50% gone. So I can't cut any more off. I cannot cut more off. I think it's just a question now of getting what's left, even though they're dead long, just getting them into a pot. That's the best I can do. It's got a good chance of survival now. I've not cut off any other roots. I put it in this quite a tall pot. I've no idea how resilient cedar of Lebanon are as a species. I don't really know. I'm hoping they're quite tough, but there's something telling me they're not. I suppose, like all the bonsai, I'll know in a few weeks or months. I'll be updating you on the progress of these trees in the spring. Hopefully they both grow well and, you know, go on to have good futures. As always, thanks for joining me. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.